Welcome to Breaking Down Bits, a conversation about great comedy bits with the comedians who wrote and performed them.
Hey, welcome back, Breaking Down Bits. I'm Brian Gendron.
I'm Drew Jordan, and here just getting into season 3. Already having so much fun. The online mic that we're doing, everyone is popping in there. It's getting better and better. People's feedback is so good. If you haven't done that yet, make sure you hop in on most Tuesdays. You can email us at breakingdownbits@gmail.com to get on the list, and we'd love to hang out with you and work some bits out. It's super fun.
Yeah, so every Tuesday night we do it at 9 to 10 Eastern time, or most Tuesday nights, I should say, Drew. And we give you 5 minutes of time and then 3 minutes of feedback. It's comics from all over the world. These are international, and I've gotten tags I've used on stage. Drew, I know you have, and I've given tags, and it's just a really creative and safe space. So email us, breakingdownbits@gmail.com. Sunday, Monday, somewhere in there, and we'll get you on one of those mics.
Yeah, why write your own jokes when someone else can write them better than you?
That's right. That's exactly right. Also, please, if you haven't already, like, subscribe, share, listen to all of our past episodes, tell a friend. BreakingDownBits.com is your portal to all of that great stuff. It's also, Drew, where you can find our last episode, maybe a good time to get into callbacks. What do you have for our interview with Jessica Watkins?
Jessica Watkins is great. I love what she's doing, releasing this documentary / stand-up special. To me, I think what I really took away from it is more about, and you may disagree, because it is always about being funny in comedy. Of course, that's to be understood. But I just really loved her sharing so much about her personal self and her personal life and her struggles. And I identify with that. And I feel like as well as being funny, if you can share something actually personal, actually real, give people something to hang on to, it's a really good thing too. And I want to do and continue to do more of that in my comedy, so that people hopefully enjoy the funny, but also after the set, I like it when they feel like they kind of get to know me a little bit, and there's a little more of a connection there. That's something I personally enjoy.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. She did absolutely open up the doors into her personal life through this journey in this documentary, and it was very well done. And one of the things that I think really contributed to her being able to execute on this, and it took her some time. There's a commitment to putting something this good together. I mean, gosh, Drew, would she start this in
2014 is when she made the walk. So it's been, she said she was editing for 5 years or something like that, just working through different, she shot like 300 hours of video. So to go as an editor and someone who works in video editing, that is a task that is insane.
So my callback is that those types of things take work, but they're so valuable in so many ways. And so many great takeaways from how she executed. So leveraging her network. And one thing I love, the little nugget in there, Drew, you produce a lot of videos, bringing in a storyteller to help if you're directing and editing and doing all the stuff, which I know you do for your program, New to Drew, bring in somebody to come in on top of that and make sure it's fit into a story. I thought that was really smart. Mm-hmm. And then also talking about crowdfunding to fund some of these larger projects that you're excited about. So much in there, and just such an incredible journey. And she's going to be letting us know soon when that drops. It's called Special-ish by Jessica Watkins. And
that's a great point. Sometimes, you need an outside perspective. That's why we go on stage, to get the audience perspective on our jokes. And so if you're doing something creative, sometimes some fresh eyes, some fresh ears, never a bad thing. And if you find an expert in storytelling and partner with them, who knows, I love to be collaborative, and I feel like sometimes stand-up comedy can feel like just a lone wolf kind of thing. But if you can find the right collaboration, I think you can really up your game.
Absolutely. So get out there if you haven't already and listen to that interview with Jessica Watkins. Also, please follow us, tag us on social media. You can find us everywhere, breakingdownbits.com or Breaking Down Bits except Twitter, which is 15 characters or less. So it's breaking down bit. 1 bit. And one quick plug before we bring in our guests. I don't want to make her wait much longer. Drew and I are heading to Lafayette, Louisiana, to not the best beer garden, the worst beer garden. And we'll be working with Ian Lara, who's a past guest on the show. We'll be featuring for him out there. So if you're in Louisiana near Lafayette, come check us out. That's March 12th at the worst beer garden. And then of course, March 13th, we're going to do it all over again here in Houston, Texas at my show, The Riot with Ian. So some cool things going on here on stage for the Breaking Down Bits crew. Anything else, Drew?
No, let's do it.
Let's get started.
Adrienne Iapalucci is a writer, comedian, and podcast host who made her stand-up debut on NBC's Last Comic Standing. She's appeared on Netflix's Degenerates, This Week at the Comedy Cellar, The Late Show with David Letterman, and Gotham Comedy Live. She was a featured performer at JFL's New Faces, and she won the first ever People's Choice Award at the New York Comedy Festival. She also co-hosts the popular weekly podcast Vag with Sarah Talamash.
Wow, Adrienne Iapalucci, how are you?
Okay, I don't think I made this any better.
I love that. I love that color. That wall is so awesome, though.
Thanks. I'm gonna have to just leave it like that, I think.
You're good.
Okay.
You're great.
Yeah.
All is well.
I'm good. Hanging out with you guys. And then after this, I'm gonna take a nap.
Yes.
Pretty much in pandemic on a baby schedule. I pick up for like an hour or two at a time, then I just go back to sleep. That's what I'm doing.
I like that. I feel like the work from home schedule has really encouraged like midday showers and naps more than ever. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then I'm up all night. I'll be doing laundry at like 1 a.m.
Well, we're so happy you joined us today. Obviously, you heard the intro. Just incredible success so far in stand-up. And of course, your latest album just came out. It's fantastic. Baby Skeletons. Loved it. Listened to it on iTunes. Streaming all over the place. And I think you can buy it on iTunes as well. One of the things that we really like to do is just hear a little bit about your journey in comedy. Mostly listening to the show, comedians, aspiring comedians, people earlier in their career really like this content. And so, talk about the beginnings of getting started. We'd love to hear that and hear how you got in this trajectory.
I mean, I'm from New York, so it's not like I had to move here and save a bunch of money. I've just been struggling in New York since I was born. And then my mom had actually done stand-up on and off when I was younger. So she kind of got me into it, and then she stopped for a bit. And I guess I was kind of at a crossroads where I was either going to go to law school or start stand-up. And I was like, I'll just start stand-up. I don't know. It's not like a huge story with big things happening in it. It was just kind of, I started, and I think having so much dysfunction in my family really let me be abused in the business for so many years without quitting. So just to be able to, like most normal people just quit because they're like, this is terrible. You know what I mean? You're just like working full time and doing stand up at night. You're not making any money, especially for years. And then, you're just like, I was interning a bit, and then I was barking, which is basically just yelling on the street at strangers and giving, flyers that they're throwing out or throwing on the floor to come to get shows. But it was better than like doing bringer shows. So I just feel like if you are a newer comic, stop doing them because you're not going to get better and your friends are going to hate you. Just don't do bringer shows. There's really no point. I think I've done one or two my entire career. I did one. And then the guy was like, great, let's have you back again. I was like, for what? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, he wants me to bring more people back like the next month. I was like, oh, I can't do this all the time. And then I was just like, and then I figured out like, open mics and just kind of getting up as much as you can in different environments. And I don't know, that's kind of it.
You're our first legacy. This is the first person the first person that said that their parent had done comedy and now you're doing it.
Because she wasn't successful.
But still,
you know what I mean? Like, you can't be unsuccessful. Like, I wish she would have been successful and paved a way for me so I would have had an easier time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, I'm pretty upset with her about it. She then waited for me to get successful and start doing it again.
Oh, did she really?
Yeah.
Oh,
riding your coattails like that. What
hotels,
so
but
so what happened before you got your you debuted on Last Comic Standing? What led up to before that happened? What was happening in your career? What got you into that opportunity?
let's see. So I was interning or answering phones, I think at maybe Stand Up New York, and there was like a real shady manager that worked there, and I asked him to be my manager, and that was like one of the only things he did for me was get me an audition for Last Comic Standing. And this is also the same manager that I took to Montreal. I have like a pretty funny story about my Montreal where it was the last year before they started doing the Unwrapped, and he came up with me, and he wrote up the day before with Patrice, and then Patrice got sent back. So he rode up there with me, and then he stayed in my hotel room with me and my boyfriend at the time. He fucked a dude on my couch while I was sleeping, and he was just the worst manager. Like, he got into a fight during my set, during industry night. And then he got into a fight with Michael Cox, who used to book, like, Chelsea's, was it Chelsea Lately? He used to book that. Now he's the booker of, I think, The Tonight Show. So he got into a fight with him during my set. And then at the end, he gave me a one-person standing ovation. I mean, it was just, the whole experience was awful. Like, nothing about it was good except the story that I have now to tell. But, like, so the only thing that manager actually did for me was get me that Last Comic Standing audition.
Yeah, that sounds like quite the ride with that guy.
Yeah, he's bonkers.
I love that he stayed in your hotel room.
He stayed in my hotel room. Yeah, and then like while I was just sleeping in the room next door, he's just banging some dude on my couch. And then talked about how he came buckets. I was like, hey man, this is my first like intro into the business. I mean, like, he had the worst business cards too, where I was like, you have to throw those out. You can't give them to anyone. I think he called his company like Center Square Entertainment, and there was a picture of a TV on it. It was just, everything about the whole thing was terrible. He wore like Hawaiian shirts with shorts.
Yeah, we'll tag his info in the comments. So if you're looking for a manager,
if you're looking for Wayne, he also had a pretty sweet setup where he lived in Manhattan, somewhere where Manhattan was thriving, and he had, I guess, a 2-bedroom. So what he would do is make the other person, he'd get like a rich student whose parents were paying, and then make them pay the entire rent. Which is not like illegal or bad, but it's just, that was like the one smart thing he did.
Good moves.
Yeah, he's a schemer through and through.
Con man.
I mean, I respect the hustle.
Yeah.
And at the time, you just must have expected, like, this is just the industry.
I just thought everyone's manager did that.
Yeah.
I was like, this is what everyone's manager is doing to them.
Everyone's boning people on your,
I guess. I was
your
like,
couch.
I don't want to be the uncool person that doesn't let my manager bang a random dude in my hotel.
In your hotel room too. Like, that's pretty close quarters to be doing that.
I was sleeping next. That's the weird part, that I was like slept through it. I slept through his couch fuck.
Even through the whole bucket situation. That's you must be a heavy.
I slept through all of it.
Heavy sleeper.
I'm so grateful for a door.
Oh man, what was the experience on Last Comic Standing like? Was that did you feel like that was a good launching pad that really kind of you got a lot of benefit out of it, or was it just kind of one of those things?
I don't know. I don't think I went far enough in it. It was like, I guess, nice accolades or a nice little clip to have, but it didn't really. I guess it helped me get some more bar shows. Do you know what I mean? Like, me and Sarah always say that it helps you get like booked on some more bar shows and lounges for free.
Well, it's interesting. We've heard a lot from like people. Like they say there was a change in like JFL over the years. Like back in the day, it was like such a huge thing. It meant you got a development deal. It meant you were going to be on a sitcom or it was huge. And then now people kind of say, well, getting on JFL, while it's still good, and I think all comics really respect it, it doesn't quite launch you the way it might have used to. Yeah,
this is like the new era of comedy at Montreal, where your manager fucks someone on his couch. It's not like the huge development deal. It's just like a dude banging another dude on your couch. But yeah,
one day.
I mean, I don't think those development deals, that money is not really there anymore. But it does open up a lot of doors, I think, if you have good representation, or it can allow you to get representation. And if, you kill it like Tim Dillon did, like, I think it starts a buzz for you. And I don't know, I had a good time going, and it was definitely, I'm glad that I was able to do it. But yeah, I wish I didn't bring him. My manager. But yeah, it was cool.
That's fun.
It wasn't like a huge launching pad for me though, or anything. I think it just kind of kept my name in the mix, and people knew I was doing that, so I'd get booked on maybe some more city shows, and maybe I get booked a little bit more at the clubs, but not on the road, just like in Manhattan and stuff.
That just feels important for like younger comics to hear. Like, don't think that just because you get booked on one big opportunity, it's going to mean your career is going to explode and you're done working now.
No.
Like, that's just not how it is.
I mean, and there's a small percentage of people that go there and probably still do get development deals or meetings that maybe lead to something. So it's not that it's out of the realm of possibility. It's just a much smaller chance of it happening. And also me and Sarah also talk about like breadcrumbing, where you just get like one thing every couple of years. So you just don't quit. Do you know what I mean? So you just keep going and going and going, because you'll get like a little thing here and there. So that's, I think, how we've ended up doing comedy for so long. Because it's like, if we just went 8 years without getting anything, we might have just quit and had like happy lives now. You know what I mean? Like I have friends that like came to New York, and New York ruined her, and she left, and like she's so happy now, and has like a house, and she's engaged. It's just like, I don't know. It's just funny to me that like she quit and she was like, oh my God, it was the best decision ever.
Definitely not for everyone, I guess. It's really it's a calling, and it's a lot of hard work. I feel like it kind of can feel like for the advancement that you get, the work that you put in is so much more. You see other people in other lanes, like, oh yeah, I went to this trade school, and now I'm happy and making money and everything. And we're like, every night of the week, I do open mics with crazy people. I'm scrambling to get booked on these worthless shows, and I love it. But I'm like, the progress sometimes can feel very tough.
Well, do you feel like because you're in Houston and Austin's going to blow up, like when we come out of the pandemic, you guys, I think, will be a little bit more on the map? How far is Houston from?
2.5 hours. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, that's great that you'll be so close to that. I think Austin's really going to blow up, and New York and LA.
It's already.
New York and LA will still be prominent areas, but I wonder if like industry will move to Austin. Like, will there be managers and agents there? And it'll be interesting to see.
It seemed like Nashville was too, and then like a truck ran into into Zany's.
Oh yeah,
it was over. And they're like, all right, we're all going to Austin. This is weird.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah.
It took out what's his face's mural, right?
Oh, who did it take out?
I think it took out Nate.
Nate Bargatze.
Oh, the hometown kid. Okay.
Yeah.
had to redraw him on the wall.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll redo it.
Yeah. But yeah, I do think we do benefit, and we get up there. We went up there a couple of weeks ago, and it's great. Yeah, I mean, it's very obvious that a lot of industry, especially now, is going through there, and I don't think that changes. But I do believe that New York and LA ultimately still end up where industry goes through.
Yeah, I think so too. But I'm just saying, I think Austin will be like a really great place. It's always been a good place to do stand-up, but I think it's becoming more and more prevalent as a place that comics are kind of migrating to.
Do you see that Cap City is coming back? Cap City has a new location.
Oh, are they? I knew they were coming back. I didn't know they moved to a new location. That's awesome.
I could be wrong about that. I just saw a post. I thought they mentioned a different location, but good to see that they're fighting back. I was wondering if Joe Rogan like invested in to bring it back or something, but they didn't say anything.
No, I would think that if he was going to be there would have to be some major club that he'd like to pop into.
Yeah, sounds like he's starting one. So you've transitioned JFL, and it sounds like that you got more going in within the city. At what point did you start seeing the rest of the country doing stages in other markets?
When I did Letterman, I got booked a little bit more on the road, and then when I did the Degenerates on Netflix, I was supposed to start touring last year, like everywhere. It was like my first real tour, and I was going to tape a special at the end of the year, and then COVID hit. It's like I have the worst comedy luck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That Degenerates is great, by the way. I love that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it stood out in that season, I thought.
That's nice to hear, because they put me last. It's almost like they're like, I hope people tune out before they get to it. I just think I was the least well known, so I think I went last. But yeah, that was a fun experience, and because of that, I was able to like start getting booked on the road to headline at some places, and even opening for Ari. He's been such like a nice person to me and so supportive. It's almost weird, like when you hear people hate on him, you're like, he's actually a good guy. So he kind of helped me by letting me headline at some open for him at some places where they could see me. And then like I was supposed to headline at Cap City, and he was trying to get me into a couple other places. So he also was helpful too.
We hear that.
Yeah.
It seems like it can be a really good thing to, if you're a good networker, if someone who's a little further along and a little more recognized than you enjoys what you're doing and brings you along, seems like that gets some people their start for touring and road work and stuff like that.
Yeah, and he also released my album for me on his podcast, so that was helpful too. His fans have been very receptive, and it was just really nice. Yeah.
Any road tips for someone who's wanting to start and getting booked outside of their market? Like what should you do if you're trying to start getting those gigs?
Become famous.
Yeah.
It's hard because if you're going on the road, you mean as like a feature or as a headliner? If you're featuring, it's just like you kind of have to have a trust fund. You're not going to make any money, and if you're doing it just for the experience, that's fine. But if you're, an adult and have like kids and a mortgage and stuff, I don't know how realistic it is. Yeah, like I just don't know how realistic it is to feature. I mean, unless you have, I guess, a day job that kind of is nice too and lets you take time off. But like, people say back in the day, a feature could like live off a feature salary. Now you just can't, because more of that stuff you have to pay for by yourself. So if you're, even if you're able to save on airfare, you're still paying for gas and sometimes a hotel. And if you're getting $75 to $100 a show, it's just like not really worth it. I mean, the stage time is great, but like, I don't know if, as a feature, unless you're opening for someone really big, that's going to kind of pad your expenses. It's just, I don't know how feasible it is. So I think that's why I've always stayed in New York and just kind of worked the clubs around here. And I didn't do that much road stuff, until the last couple of years.
And I'd say too, it's encouraging. One good thing out of the pandemic is a lot of people now have this work from home where you can sort of have a lifestyle, right? You can be from anywhere. And so if you are a comic or considering getting into comedy, put some thought to that now you can work from anywhere. Being a feature doesn't pay dick. But if you're funny and you connect to the right person, you can do it even though it doesn't pay anything.
Yeah, you're not doing it really for the money. You're doing it just for the experience and stage time. So even places you can drive to is valuable. If you know what I mean, like if you can drive 2-3 hours somewhere and drive back the same night and not really have to pay for a hotel and stuff, it's decent if you could do that.
And that's what I think. I used to live in Nashville, and that was a great central location. You can make it to 5 or 6 different cities. Houston's not bad. You can make it to Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, and some things in Louisiana. So you can start, I guess, like just trying to make yourself more of a regional.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Sometimes I've heard people that have not in New York so much because it's not as big of a headlining city, it's more of like showcase where everyone does kind of like 15-20 minutes. But people have said on the road where they're like, I see big headliners come in here and they've taken a liking to me and then taken me on the road. So that is a benefit too. If you're in the clubs and someone likes you, they will take you on the road with them.
Yeah, definitely. That seems to be the way. One of my buddies is the opener for Nate Bargatze now, and so like he
awesome. Wait, who is it? Justin?
Aaron Weber.
Okay, I don't know who that is. I thought
he's on the. I don't know if he always opens for him, but he's on the podcast, the Nate Land podcast or whatever. He was just he was always getting booked around Nashville, but he was always like obviously much better than I was because I was brand new there. And it's just cool to see him go from like kind of like not like open micer in a negative way, but just a local comic to just boom, he's on a national platform. It's so cool to see that happen.
That's really cool. Yeah. So stuff like that happens and that's encouraging.
Yeah.
Well, the good news for you, you've been in the New York market. Obviously we're about to watch a clip at the Cellar. So you're past it. I would assume a lot of the big clubs. The Cellar is obviously one of the biggest clubs in the country. And actually, can I ask you, can you share a little bit about the experience? ST's a tough nut to crack. Do you remember auditioning and being past?
I do remember auditioning. what was I think Russ Maneve, I had opened for Artie Lang and a show, and Russ Maneve was like, "Hey, are you past at the cellar?" And I was like, "No." He's like, "I'm going to recommend you." And then he did, and I auditioned. I was very anxious just because, I was never one of the people that just hung out at the cellar, like, before being passed. I don't know. I just never really did. I went a couple times. And I had a good set, and she passed me. She's always been really, like, nice and kind to me. But I do get that, you want to do well in front of her, and you want to impress her. But she was always really nice to me. I don't know. I don't have like a terrible story about that. Just Montreal. Yeah, she's always been really nice, and she's also like she's also pretty helpful. Like if you ask her stuff, she'll give her like insight and stuff. And people who have not passed the first time, she'll have them come back. So she's not just like, hey, if I don't like you the first time, I'll never see you again. Which is
right. And she's never hooked up with anyone on your couch, just to check.
Okay. No one else has ever hooked up with anyone on my couch except my manager.
Well, it's a good time to turn over to writing. One of the things we ask all of our guests, Adrienne, is really open-ended. How do you write comedy?
I was never one of those people that could just sit down and write for like an hour. It turns into like drawing very quickly. So like I just can't sit down and write. It's just like if something funny happens, I'll kind of use maybe like Twitter or Facebook. I used to just kind of test jokes out. And then like from there, I would kind of try them on stage. And they had a couple of shows that were like new joke shows where the Cellar had one, and the Stand used to have one too, where you could the audience knows that it's new jokes. So there's like a low pressure situation, and you could just do 5 to 7 minutes of new stuff. And if it doesn't go well, that's what it's there for. There's no like added pressure to kill, but doing well helps. So shows like that are really helpful. And then too, I would think like if you're headlining, you could do some new stuff in between other stuff, works. So I don't know. I've never really just sat down and like written. I'll just have something come to me, and then I'll either put it in my notepad or on my phone, or just maybe like tweet it. And with like PC culture coming down so hard, it's getting even harder to put stuff on Twitter without people taking it seriously. So I've even stopped putting some stuff on there where I'm like, well, without context, you don't really get who I am and that this is a joke. So some stuff I don't put on there.
For sure.
I've done some Zoom shows during the pandemic, and during the summer and the nicer weather, I was doing outdoor shows. But yeah, like Zoom shows, it's another tool. Like I know you guys have a mic, and it is another tool just to kind of, I don't know that you're staying as sharp, because there is nothing like a live audience, but it is a tool, to use while we're just doing the pandemic stuff.
Yeah. Are you a talk your jokes out loud to yourself and work that? Or what do you do to once you have an idea, how do you get it to the next level by yourself?
I kind of on stage, I can work out a bit. Or sometimes I'll have a group of friends and we'll do like writing sessions with other comics that I like and trust, and we'll just give each other like some ideas or a tag, or so like that's also helpful too. If you have a couple of friends that you like and trust their comedy opinion, run jokes and ideas by people, or you even say like, hey, is this an idea? And they'll be like, yeah, maybe this angle or that. So I'm not really like a talk out loud person. I find a lot of stuff comes to me in the shower, I guess, because it's so silent in there. So like I'll think of stuff like that, or I know people say that if they're at the gym, they're able to think of jokes. And
when it comes to those writing groups, I've been in a couple, and it seems like it's very easy for them to devolve and not actually be productive. What about your writing group keeps it productive and good?
That's a good question. I think keeping it small, like usually 2 or 3 people, like if it's a bigger group of people, it's easier to get sidetracked and little conversations break out. And sometimes too, in those conversations where like they devolve into other stuff, like you could still get comedy out of that too. Like,
sure.
I don't know. I think this is such a weird time right now that it's like any interaction with people is valuable, even if it's not, even if it's not like, you start out with this one idea and it kind of went in a way you didn't expect. It's still nice to just have that like companionship and talk to people. So, I mean, yeah, you could try and bring it back and be like, all right, guys, let's get back to the joke or something. But sometimes comedy comes out of the derailment.
I was thinking, I'm an ideator. I had a good idea for our mic, just from what you said, Adrienne. It's like maybe we do one, Drew, where it's just like not a workshop for ideas, as opposed to, just having people run sets. And with some of the people, like you said, that we trust their comedy opinion, and there's several people that come through that I think we can invite to that. That's great.
That would be cool. Like if you have a couple, and like too, some people don't want any feedback. So I've heard people do mics where they're like, we offer feedback at the end, and people are like, I don't value your opinion. You know what I mean? So they're like, I'd rather just run my jokes and see how they do. So you have to have people who are open to doing it.
That's true. It's
to the idea.
There's different types of comics for sure that you want to work with, and there's some lone dogs out there that lone wolves just want to do their own thing.
I have a friend that I think I've given him a tag and be like, you should use that. And he's like, I never take tags from people because then I feel like the joke's not mine. And it's like, that's kind of how it works in a writing room. Like you all kind of work together, and I don't know, it's still your joke. But like I respect that's his process, and he doesn't want any feedback from people. So
yeah, I love taking tags, but also, it's always tough because sometimes it's in someone else's voice. And you're like, that is a great tag, but it never come out of my mouth. It would never,
Right. I mean, you could say that too. You could say that's really funny, but it's just not in my voice.
Mm-hmm. But I love it. I love the collab part of it. Behind the scenes is one of the most fun things when it works.
Yeah. It's just, trying to keep comedy sharp, I guess.
Comedy,
is the scene there? Everything in Texas is open, right? So.
Yeah,
pretty much. Yeah.
It's so competitive out, in the room, in the mics and all that stuff. It's nice to have some collaboration because it's co-opetition, right? And so it does feel good when we're actually working together on something for once.
Yeah, it's like, even though people think everything's so competitive, it's like, and I guess it's corny and cliche, you're really not competing with everybody, like I don't know. There is kind of room for everybody, so it's like you're not competing to the fact where like someone won't want to give you information, or it's so weird not to be to be so competitive where you're just like scared and hoard everything like toilet paper during the pandemic. It's like, well, there's you're not gonna work that club 52 weeks out of the year, so it's weird not to, I don't know. There's an abundance of stuff out there. I don't know. It's just weird to have that mentality. Like, I don't want to share this with someone.
And that's how we are. I mean, that's what we're doing here, right? We're taking our time. This is a lot. We pay ultimately to put this together, and it's for the benefit of all comics. And so we try. Drew and I both sort of have the philosophy that, look, lead with kindness and try to help people out, and that comes back around. And that's I think it's been good for both of us.
Yeah, and some people you can't help. You know what I mean? Like they're just toxic and awful, and you're like, all right, man, you're out. But for the most part, most people are decent.
So before, they're comics. It's a lower bar.
Yeah, that's true.
When it comes to, before we get to your clip, we'd love to talk about what do you do to prepare for a set, or what do you do those last minutes before you step on stage? Is there anything you do to get prepared in those ways?
I might just look at like a set list, just to kind of refresh what I wanted to do on stage. And I mean, when I had taken off comedy for like 5 or 6 months during the pandemic, those set notes were really valuable, right? Because like I hadn't been on stage in so long. So just kind of looking it over and seeing what jokes I want to hit or what tags I want to add. And sometimes still I'll even miss it, if I don't have a set list on stage with me. But right after being like cooped up in the house and going on stage for the first time, I was bringing set lists, and everyone gets it.
Yeah. Do you like, we've had different people have different opinions. So before you go on stage, are you someone who likes to mix it up in the green room, or find some solo time to prepare your head, or what do you do before?
I don't mind talking to somebody, before, but like not maybe the 5 minutes before, like, even 10 minutes before. It's like I want to just kind of get in my head and see what I'm doing. Yeah, just go over it a little bit.
For sure. I think there's something about like, it's weird to pop up on stage when you're not feeling 100% prepared sometimes. Yeah,
and I've done that too, where like I've driven into Manhattan and looked for a spot so long, and I just had to run in, and you're always like a little bit frazzled, just because you don't have those couple minutes before to just kind of go through your set or what jokes you want to do, or so like I do value like 5 minutes maybe before, just to kind of go over it. I think a lot of comics do.
Yeah, I want that time, and I make a set list for everything, even though I may or may not stick with it.
Yeah.
If I don't have a set list, I feel like my memory is going to fail me, or I'm terrified of just getting up there, just totally blanking and being like, I wrote some jokes, I'm sure of it. I just can't think of any right now.
Yeah. I like set lists.
I also keep my old set list, and it's fun to go back and see how they progressed and what fell off and what came in.
Yeah, and sometimes too, you'll be at a place in your career where you'll think of an idea and you just can't get it to work, and then like a couple years later, you're like, oh, I could figure that out now. It's just going. It's always like just keep those jokes because you never know when you can go back and just make them better or be able to figure out how they work for you.
Yeah, shout out to the Sean Patton episode. A big chunk about not killing your babies, as he says, holding on to those old ideas.
Don't kill them. It is weird. You feel like I've been in a show where some of my best jokes are not working, and I'm like, you do get protective like they're your kids, and it's almost like you don't even deserve them. So now I'm just going to open mic it the rest of the show.
Yeah.
But yeah, they are like your children, where you're like, protect them.
I'm gonna go ahead and cue up the clip. This isn't the actual audio from Baby Skeletons, right? From your new album? I don't believe so. Okay, but I did recognize some of the jokes from the album.
Some of the jokes are, yeah.
Okay, so this is at the Comedy Cellar. I think you said a few years ago. I'm gonna go ahead.
I think 3 to 4 years ago. So that's when my hair was still really short.
You're growing it out. Okay, cool. Let's play the clip. We'll come back.
I travel a lot. I like to do this thing whenever I get off a plane. I like to make the seatbelt really tight, so when the next person gets on, they just feel bad about themselves. I've lost some weight recently. I can tell I'm getting closer to my goal weight just because I got into a fight with somebody recently and they didn't call me fat. Like the guy was like, "You're ugly and a bitch." And I was like, "Is there anything else you want to say to me?" And he was like, "I hope you drop dead." I was like, "That is the sweetest thing anybody's ever said to me." My weight's gone up and down my whole life. I had a period where I was like super thin, then I got really fat, and I'd run into people and I have to explain to them how it happened. But I just found myself explaining it the same way a parent explains how their child went missing. I was just like, well, none of us expected this to happen. We're all very upset. But we've saved all of her clothes, and we've kept the room exactly the same. We just hope she's gonna come back. There was a story the other day about a teacher that had sex with one of her students, and it happens so often that I think we have to ask men, what are you doing that these women are being swept off their feet by 13-year-olds? Because at some point, I do think it's your fault. If you tell a girl you're going to call her, call her. You know, that's the thing. When these kids say they're going to be there after school, they're there. Every day. They don't make you wait to meet their mother. I don't know. But look, nobody becomes a teacher because you want to sleep with the kids. That's not why you do it, you know? But you get your heart broken a couple of times and you're like, well, Tommy does listen to me. I just got out of a relationship myself. I'm starting to date, but I could tell I'm a little bit rusty because I went to tell a guy I wasn't into casual sex, but instead I said consensual sex. And he was just like, cool. I used to play lacrosse. We were together for 6 years. That's a long time. You don't realize how much you miss somebody until you're going over the George Washington Bridge without their Easy Pass. Like $15. Maybe things weren't that bad. We used to fight a lot, though. We got into a fight one night, and he told me he was going to kill himself, and I was like, great, now I won't be able to kill myself, or people will think we were in love. He used to snore really bad too. Like I would just watch him sleep at night and be like, I wonder if I hit him in the face with this hammer, how much time I would get. So I looked it up and it's worth it. I think the hardest part about getting away with murder is not being able to brag about it to your friends. Right? You're at a party, your friend's going on about his promotion, and you're like, I'm doing stuff too. I don't know. As a woman, though, this is the best time to be alive. Like, I'm glad I wasn't alive in the 60s. I also just think I would have set women further back. Just because it's, like, so hard to offend me. If I was working in an office in the 60s and some woman was like, you know what? These men can't just call us skirts. They gotta have been like, I don't know, we're wearing skirts. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I'm just trying to get hit less at home. Being called skirts like the least of my problems. I gotta work on that casserole. My ex-boyfriend never hit me, but I could tell he wanted to. Because anytime we got into a fight, he would just destroy the whole house. One of our last fights we got into, he ripped a ceiling fan down. I was like, dude, just hit me. I was like, I can wear a long sleeve shirt for a week, but I cannot go a whole summer without a ceiling fan.
Good stuff. Do you like watching your own comedy from 3 years ago?
No, that was brutal. That was the worst. I also was like in a stage, I think right there when I was doing comedy, and like nervously laughing at my jokes after. I was like, oh, that's so brutal. I'm glad I don't do that anymore. That was just the worst to watch that. You're like, oh, because you don't even realize you're doing it until you see a video like that. And I'm like, oh, that's the worst.
That's a great reminder to like video your sets. I get so used to audio recording to check and listen back, but video, I know that I know there's a million things I need to probably stop physically doing or start physically doing on stage that I never watch the video, so I never know.
Yeah, I was like, just watching that, I was like, oh, what a terrible clip. Why did I give this to them?
No, it's awesome.
I like the jokes, but I don't like
delivery or your post delivery.
I don't like the laughing after where I'm like nervous.
Well, because you have some dark stuff, and it really hits harder when you just play it straight and like lean into it.
Yeah, right? I don't know. I guess that was like a phase where I was like uncomfortable. Like it's like an uncomfortable tick.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just grateful not doing that still.
Yeah,
it's good to have that awareness. Build that awareness though. And
I think I was like, oh, that's so brutal to watch. Now I really want to go to sleep.
That nap's gonna feel great in a minute.
It's gonna be amazing.
I just love the angles that you find it's so funny because some of that, like the teacher having sex with the student, you know, a lot of people have jokes about that. I've never heard that angle before. And also the he didn't say I was fat and the clothing with the kid missing.
That actually happened. I did get into a fight with a guy because I was, I think, throwing my dog poop out in like someone else's garbage, and it's like, well, it is garbage, but it's also funny that like that actually happened, and like this guy followed me to my house.
Oh, yeah, he's like, how's that couch looking?
Yeah, but then like my boyfriend came out, and I was like, you can't hit him. He's like 70. Do you know what I mean? And like he drove away, but the Bronx is like that. You could get into a fight with anybody at any moment.
And you just made a mental note that he called you a lot of things, but he didn't comment on your weight, and that felt like a benefit.
It felt like a win. I just thought that was the funniest thing to me after. Is like, oh my god, that's pretty awesome. I wasn't even mad.
And I think you take the missing kids bit for the clothes even further in Baby Skeletons. It's kind of progressed, and there's more to it. And I love where that goes too. It's such a great angle. Like I think that's what makes, I don't know, me really love certain writing and certain comics is they take something that we all experience, and that point of view is just skewed enough that I never saw that angle, and it keeps it fresh.
Oh, thanks. That's really nice.
Well, it works.
dig it.
The most obvious example is the airplane. All comics have an airplane joke because they do a lot of traveling, and like
Yeah.
you hit that specific angle that nobody's hit, and super relatable to me. So I don't know if like somehow you hit me personally, and I'm curious if you do this to everybody because you hit me. I'm a lacrosse player, so I'm like, oh yeah.
And, you know, I'll offend someone on something, and like not even like offended in a person.
Yeah, I'm
where
not
you're
offended.
upset.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like
Yeah.
I'll have someone say like, I was fine with the school shooting jokes, but like the pedophile joke was too much for me.
Yeah.
Which is weird to me because like, I don't know, school shooting, like kids are dying. Like there's no comeback for that. Like, I don't know, like I don't know. Of course, like it's awful R. Kelly did, but like there is a way to come back to that. Like if at least your kid's not dead. I don't know.
Yeah. But you got me like the seatbelt thing too. You got me. I used to be heavier and I couldn't fit in a seatbelt sometimes. Like Adrienne, no, I know. Did it.
I just thought that was funny. Like, because
Yeah.
whenever you get into like an airplane seat, it's always smaller. So I wonder if people are just doing that also. It's just funny, or you like want the person that was there to think you were thin. I don't know. It's like such a weird thing, but from traveling a lot, you kind of got that.
And then the what Drew is referencing, where the kid gets lost, the old man is lost in Disney World. Like I got lost at Disney World. So like you always like hit like me personally, and I don't know if you do that to everybody, but it really it sucks me into your bits.
Maybe. I think it depends what type of comedy you like too, because some people are really offended by everything. Like I put that missing kid joke out on I guess it was Twitter, and somebody was like upset about it, but their profile picture was them at Disneyland. So I'm like, well, I get why you don't like this because you feel attacked as a 50-year-old couple at Disneyland with no kids. That's the weirdest to me.
I know you didn't like. I know you didn't like that you were kind of like chuckling here and there about your jokes, but I got pure pleasure out of the moment where you did the lacrosse joke and you got like a few groans in the audience, and then there was just a moment on your face where you were just like purely happy. I think you were you happy? Those groans made you happy a little bit.
So I guess there's always a little joy in that for me when people are not into it. It's a weird. I mean, look, I get not everyone's going to be into it. You know what I mean?
But it's fun when the entire crowd was groaning, but there was a chunk of them, and that's you're like, it's funny, and I'm kind of glad that these people think
it's funny, but these people do not think it's funny, or they're a little upset by that, or maybe they were all lacrosse players. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm assuming that was when like wasn't there a news story about a lacrosse team or a sports team that had done some stuff.
That's the thing too, is like I'm the worst with knowing what's going on in the world. So I had a situation where I did a school shooting joke where a shooting was not that far away from us. So I had to start Googling, was there a school shooting in Naples? Like just random places where I had to start doing that, where I'm like, I got to know what's topically going on.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was going to ask about that. So obviously you mentioned it earlier, PC culture, you like to get into the dark. Me too, by the way. I enjoy that space. That's why I really enjoy your comedy. But what are some things that you have to be considerate of in this new era, if you will?
I mean, I think putting stuff online sometimes is especially if it's just words without an actual clip that you can see it's at a club or something and it's a joke. Mm-hmm. That to me seems like the only thing where, I don't know, sometimes putting a joke online and people take it seriously. Like, so I've kind of stopped putting some things on there where I think they're going to get like, you know, because people are like, they like tell on you in a way where they'll get like report you or stuff like that, where people don't like a joke and they're just, I guess it's like tattletelling, you know, like they just don't like what you're saying. So instead of just blocking you so they don't see your content, they'll go and report you. So like now everyone can't see that one content or that one joke or something. And then if that happens enough times, then you're like blocked off of Instagram or whatever it is that you wasted time building this audience. So it's like, I don't know. I just, on stage, I'll say whatever I want because I don't care, because that's like a club. But sometimes like if I'm putting a joke up without audio and they don't know it's a joke, I'm like, this could be misconstrued and I might not put it up.
That's encouraging to just be like, look, you're on stage. That's a sacred place. Like, do your thing.
If you're offended, that's like on you. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like you came to a club. But sometimes I guess even though you'll post something for your fans or your friends or whatever, like people will share it, and then other people who other people are seeing it now and then they're upset about it. So I don't know. I kind of tend to just put stuff out that I'm like, okay, if it's not as bad, or they're going to realize it's a joke, but I have also been able to build after I put the album out by just doing, I don't know, some stuff online. And once I did the outdoor shows, I was able to like take a couple of those jokes and put them together and weave them into a bit. So it is helpful too. It's just kind of knowing, what's going to like get people upset and possibly get you flagged. Is it worth losing this audience you've tried to build up? But on stage, yeah, I will kind of say whatever I want because they are at a club.
You do have to. One thing I'll quickly say, Drew, is the other, like it was last time, 2 nights ago, somebody came up and newer comic was just like, "Hey, abortion, son," but you really, I mean, you have to give them a little. That was his opening line, and it's like you have to give them a little bit of something about yourself before you can just dive in, or they're gonna,
Yeah, or if you're trying to just, I think like Chris Rock will dig himself into a hole to get out. So
he can.
Yeah. It's, I've done that, not just like opened up abortion jokes, but a joke that's like too dark for them and they don't expect it. And then I've struggled the next 15 minutes. So yeah, there is something for giving them a joke up front that like eases them in. But I also get like not caring about that and being okay with digging yourself, like putting yourself in a hole.
Comedy is a weird balance like that. But I like I like your point of view though. It's like, there's some places where it's okay to just be raw and there's some places just realize there's consequences and you got to make a decision. Like, is this joke on Twitter worth people
getting banned?
It's right.
Is it worth doing that? It's like, you can do whatever you want, but there are consequences also, so like if you're on Twitter and some mom reports you and it's a joke that is very offensive, you're like, well, I kind of got that and I deserved it, even though you're like, well, you should be able to say whatever you want. I do believe that. It's like, I do also get, it is weird though, because on Twitter you could just watch hardcore porn. I've been surprised where you're just going through your screen, you're like, oh, there's 2 people fucking right there, and then you're like, I'll say some words and people are offended by that, and you're like, well, I just watched somebody like fuck someone on someone's account. It's like, that's such a bizarre thing where that's okay and words aren't. And I don't think that it should be like that, but I also recognize the world that we're living in. I don't think you should be canceled for saying words, especially as a comic. But I also realize like I had a friend that had a pretty decent Twitter following, and I don't know why he got banned, but he's banned. And now those, 20, 30,000 people that were following him are not following him on Twitter anymore. So,
well, that's a detriment to your career.
I don't agree with it. I do realize that there are consequences. So I just try and be a little smart about it.
Well, just like any comic, you got to read the room. That's part of being a comic is understanding your audience's point of view a little bit, because you're writing jokes for them and you're creating content for them. So there's 2 sides of the coin. Is you want to be true to yourself, but you also have to realize who is consuming these jokes and how they're going to feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, I ultimately feel like I'm writing jokes for me and I want people to enjoy them. That's like how I think of it. I'm not like I'm writing this joke for you, but it's like, this is what I enjoy and I want you to like it. But if you don't, I'm also okay with that.
That's true.
But yeah, you do need a balance of it, because if I'm only writing jokes for me and I'm the only one liking them, I'm not going to make a living at it, Like,
it's true.
So I get
other people have to like
too.
it, but
it is finding that balance where you're like, well, this is what I think is funny, and let's see if I can make this a little more relatable so everyone is like in on the joke. But sometimes that doesn't happen. I've had people leave a show angry and like literally report me in the room. So.
That's crazy. You come out to a comedy show and then you don't you weren't expecting a joke.
Any place I've worked at where someone has not liked the joke, the place has always sided with the comic though. Like the places that I've worked at, like Acme's really good about that, in the Cellar and the Stand, and even New York Comedy Club. Like, I've had people, I don't know about Acme, but I've had other people at other places just be like offended and tell, the manager or something, and they'll always be like, well, comedy's subjective, and we understand you didn't enjoy that, but, that may just not be the comic for you.
Yeah, and isn't it always kind of like alcohol-induced a lot of times? Like the audience is a little trashed, and they just, you're not thinking as clearly as they would if they were maybe a little more sober.
I think also because of all social media, it has made everyone's voice count, and like not everyone's voice does count.
Your voice, some voices should not count.
Yeah, like I had like that line where I'm like, everyone has a voice, but not everyone should be heard. Like, you know what I mean? Like not, and I think because of social media, everyone thinks they like have a voice, and also people have so much, like they have instant like connection to you. So like, so you know, back in the day, you couldn't reach out to like, you know, Andrew Dice Clay or someone, but like now you can go into their DMs, and it doesn't mean they'll necessarily see it, but you can say whatever you want to them.
You could pay Dice to do a cameo for your girlfriend on Valentine's Day.
Yes, you can do that. That's what a crazy world we're living in. I tried to see if OJ was on there, but he's not. And I love him, even though I do think he killed those people. I still love him. Like, I love him as
he was great in Naked Gun.
Well, no, I love somebody who just doesn't give a fuck. Like, of course, I think what he did was wrong, and I guess I have a joke about him too, so that's why I wanted to reach out to him, see if he would do it. But I don't know. Like, it's like that R. Kelly joke I have. I think what R. Kelly did was awful, but I'm still listening to like the remix to Ignition.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And I got like I think out of all the jokes I've done, people have probably come the hardest to me over R. Kelly jokes. That's what I've gotten a lot of people upset about.
All those girls are over 18 now. It's okay.
Well, I also, when people are upset and they're like, why are you making fun of them? I was like, I believe I called them heroes in the joke. I was not making fun of them. But yeah, everyone has access to you. So like people just write to you and tell you how much they don't like you. And you're like, all right.
Right. It's good and bad because like the access you have to connecting with fans and
Yes.
creating following and a whatever is awesome because of the internet, but there's always those crazy people who just want to be mad about something. They're out there.
If you want to be mad about something, go on the internet. You can find so many things to get like worked up about and mad about. Like there are people that choose to get mad about. Yeah. I did think during the pandemic, like PC culture would die down a bit because you're like, oh, well, we're in this pandemic and people are dying and like the economy is tanking. And then I think we were in the house so much, people just got more politically correct. They were like looking for places to be outraged instead of just ignoring it.
Yeah, I mean, probably.
Which is weird to me. It's like, just don't like it. I don't necessarily love country music, but I don't think people shouldn't have access to it if they like it.
Right. I think that part of the pandemic, you know, maybe I'm not a super political person, but I would think that like maybe it kind of has grown some extremist type thinking because you're just trapped. And the thing you're doing the most is just on the internet. You're not having as many personal interactions and getting out. So you're just if you look at social media every day, all day, you're going to lose your mind. That's insanity.
You're going to lose your mind. And, you know, you just start getting swept up. And I don't know. I just think I see the process of people go like how like the super left just influences people to go to the right just for like freedom of speech, even though you don't necessarily align with everything they're saying. So it's like,
yeah,
I don't know. It's a weird place in comedy. I think Sam Morril had a funny joke about like the only people fighting for freedom of speech is like racists and comics.
Yeah.
So
I didn't see us come together on this one or something like that.
It's a really funny joke, but also you're like, wow, that is a very good point. Like, sometimes it's easier to perform for an audience that's all the way to the right as opposed to all the way to the left. It's just like we align politically, but like as like socially, it's just like crazy that you can't see these things are jokes. I don't know.
There's a pretty in Houston, like as soon as you leave the Beltway, it's a different market, right? It's that simple. You're in the city. That's I guess a lot of places, right? When you're in the city,
probably, yeah.
You know, and when you get to the right, you know, they'll laugh at things where you're making fun of the right. And they'll laugh at things and making fun of the left, but in the city, it's you gotta tread carefully in some cases, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's just interesting, and I think like this last election really divided people, where people didn't really, and they always did care like about politics and stuff, but like everyone got so riled up about it. But I also seen a lot of like people pandering, you know, who are like, I hate Trump, he's a racist. And I'm like, well, didn't your husband say he wouldn't let your daughter date a black dude? Like, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of that too, where I'm like, it's very disingenuous, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I kind of.
Yeah. And you'd probably be on the road. You've probably seen that for years, though. Like different markets have such different makeups of people, types of people, and coming from different worlds that maybe you've always seen some jokes hit harder in some
Sure.
locations versus others?
I think the only thing the right really gets upset about, I notice, is like they hate abortion jokes. Like they will even take you trashing Trump, but like they hate abortion jokes, which is hilarious to me.
It's very important.
It's funny to me like what their line is, but like if you perform like a super left, I did a show for Planned Parenthood, and like I did a joke about the morning after pill, I think, and they were upset about it. I'm like, this is funded by like Planned Parenthood, and not that Planned Parenthood only does abortions, and it does like a lot of women's health care, but it's like that is a part of. It's just weird. You're like, I'm actually endorsing your product, and you're still upset about it. It's so crazy.
There is no spokesperson for Plan B, and maybe there should be.
Maybe it should be me. I don't know.
Oh, that's funny.
Well, let's go ahead and get into our last segment. We do to our comics, so we're not just isolating you. Yes, I'm going to play a quick graphic, and then we're going to get into last laugh.
Okay.
It's so strange. Okay, so you got one joke. Speaking of Twitter, like it's out there forever. This is the one joke you put on your tombstone to be remembered by. Oh, Adrienne, what do you got?
But it has to be like a short joke, right? Because
Nah, it can be whatever. It doesn't have to be yours. This is how we play the game.
Oh, I don't even know. I have no idea what my joke would be. I might be stumped. Can you guys just pick a joke for me?
I would think it would be something about how you got beat or killed by your boyfriend. Like tie into that somehow.
It might just be my suicide joke.
Yeah. There you go. There's like maybe on top of your headstone is a ceiling fan or something.
And
some tie in there.
Wayne would be at your funeral and be the only one giving a standing ovation.
Oh my God.
He had sex with someone on your tombstone.
I wouldn't put it past him. I'd be like, you know what? You could use that. I'll bend you right over the tombstone and bang you. That would be less offensive to me than when he did it in Montreal, to be honest.
I hope he's not a listener.
Sorry, Wayne.
He's so narcissistic. I don't think he does anything outside of himself, to be honest.
So I popped up the album, Baby Skeletons. Like I said, it's iTunes and I think Spotify and all the places you can stream. And then please pay for it and do what you got to do to listen to it. It's fantastic.
But you could also listen to it on Ari's podcast for free. And if you want to donate, you can. If you want to, I've had people donate $1. I've had somebody gave me $100. Like it's just, I think people do whatever they want, and some people are listening to it and not donating anything, and that's also fine. I get it. I'd rather more people listen to it.
Excellent. And I pulled up your website. You can get stuff about the album, some other stuff about booking and all that stuff on your website, adrienneapalucci.com.
Listen to Vag podcast.
Yeah.
Very funny Sarah Talamash.
We didn't get into
Houston girl, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
By way of South
really
Africa and friend of the show. She was on season 1, and y'all do a great job with Vag. So thank you so much for joining us. That was
so much for having me.
A lot of fun and some really great perspective. Thank you everybody for listening. We gonna get out of here. Follow us on Breaking Down Bits and all the social media. Get to us at breakingdownbits.com. We out.
Thanks for listening to Breaking Down Bits. You can keep in touch or get more when you follow at Breaking Down Bits on social media, visit the website breakingdownbits.com, or shoot us an email at breakingdownbits@gmail.com.